everyone. Welcome to Generation Dan, the podcast with three comedians of different ages, and I'm still trying to figure this intro out. I'm Atlas Novak.
I am Nick Fernandez.
And I am Dino, the genetic marvel.
And today, before we started recording, we were talking about in music where the difference between what a song sounds like in the other language versus what the translation means in English. Or yeah.
Listen, Du Hast is a perfect example. You're like, listen, Du Hast by Rammstein is a great song. Translation, not so much. You're like, it doesn't have the same gravitas. Sorry.
Yeah.
I also like a lot of the K-pop songs where it's mostly in Korean, and then the chorus is in English. The chorus is usually in English. Everything else is in Korean, and then all of a sudden, like, we party tonight, like is the chorus out of nowhere.
But the best part is, because it's sung, it kind of sounds like certain English words, and you're like, I think that rhymes, but I'm just going to sing it anyway. And you're like, that was not the word at all that they were saying.
Yeah, there was this one song that me and my buddies were obsessed with back in elementary school, where it was like early YouTube days, and it was called Took Took something. It was like an Indian Bollywood star that did the song, and we were dying because what a YouTuber did was they took the song in the video, and then they inserted subtitles of what he's saying in English, but he's singing in Hindi, right? But they inserted the English words of what, and I can't remember what the song is, but the English translation of the chorus was like, all along you've been pumping my guitar and you filling me with tar and you like.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
So they made it grammatically like make sense what he's saying, but the wording is like, but the meaning is immaterial because they just pick the words that it sounds like, and we would die laughing all about that. That was like back in the years where I don't know if you ever got into like That Guy with the Glasses or Nostalgia Critic and stuff in the early internet days.
That was like,
I want to say the mid 2000s.
The only YouTube thing I watched from Nostalgia Critic back then was his review of The Room.
Yes. We got obsessed with The Room. This was way before Disaster Artist and everything like that. I watched The Room like when I was probably like 10 or 11 with my buddy, because my one of my best friends at the time, he was like huge into movies and loved Tarantino. Mm-hmm. He's the only reason I have taste when it comes to movies and stuff, because he would point out things that weren't even on my radar at that age, but yeah, he introduced me to The Room, and I believe in the same weekend we also watched Howard the Duck.
Those are two very different movies.
Equally terrible.
Yeah, but I just like the idea of this guy being like you're the only tastemaker, where it's like, hey, I know you love SpongeBob and Rugrats and Rocket Power, but like Citizen Kane.
Yeah, I skipped all of like the kid cartoons and stuff.
Yeah.
I went right from watching like Teletubbies and Power Rangers and Recess to CSI and Criminal Minds.
I was gonna say, like, Recess is a kid's cartoon though, and yes, that explains a lot.
But like I jumped right from those to like I skipped over all the Nickelodeon stuff and like the all of the I couldn't even tell you what the titles of them because I never watched any of them.
Yeah.
But because my like right around that age is where my parents, because my sister was difficult when we were younger, and she's 2 years older, so she would ruin things, 2 years, like, and I would lose 2 years of stuff. So she like got into a fight with my mom about like laundry and stuff. So at 8 years old, I was doing my own laundry. Because she started that argument. My mom was like, "Oh, we're gonna have an argument. Fine, you're doing all your own stuff." And then I was doing my own laundry. Hindsight, I'm so thankful for this because I'm really good at like being self-sufficient. But then like a year and a half later, like she got into an argument with my mom about like school lunches. Now we're making our own lunches. So that and then
why the fuck did you not get your lunch made?
Yeah,
bullshit. Like fucking.
Hey,
Hey, that is a problem, sir. Okay.
We've had this discussion like with my mom, with my parents about this, and we've worked some things out, like in the modern era. Like my sister like just started to having to like pay for her own like cell phone bill, and I'm like, I get 3 years. I get 3 more years. All right.
Yeah, that's fair.
I get 3 more years of this shit. And then yeah, and then right in and around that time, my sister started to having like lagging with her effort in school and stuff like that too, and probably me as well. But again, 2 years younger. So they instituted the rule that I had very strict parents when I was growing up. No TV during the week. So from Sunday night through to Friday night, no TV Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday until you finished your homework on Friday. So I started to get really into reading novels and stuff. But the one caveat there was that if my parents were watching something, we could watch it with them, provided that we had already finished our homework.
So you always watch Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune, and
no, this is at night, so it's
they never watched early in the evening because my dad usually got home late. So it was like 8 o'clock onwards. So it was like Grey's Anatomy, I'm sure ER at that era, Criminal Minds, CSI, New York, Miami, and Las Vegas, all 3 of them throughout the week. And so like I started because of this, like I grew up like really, really quickly in terms of like my maturity was really, really low. Like I was still a child, but like mentally I started to advance really quickly. I read Game of Thrones when I was like 11. And they get to incest quick in that book. Like,
that is true.
Page 17 that they get to the incest.
So 11, like a lot of boys haven't reached puberty yet usually. So you're like reading about Game of Thrones and you're like, really? Incest? That's my sexual awakening?
No, I also hit puberty real early too.
Oh.
He's looked like this since the age of 9.
Beard and all, yeah.
I had a really bad pedo stash from like grade 4 and through to grade 7. Because like I had the upper lip, but like it was like that fuzzy stuff where it was still like
not a mustache. That's what it's called.
Speech fuzz,
and arguably my parents waited too long to give me a razor. But it was so that was interesting. But I had already hit puberty and stuff, and I was like a voracious reader because I had like no friends. So I would read like during school and stuff, and I started like accelerating with like my reading level and stuff. And my dad was reading Game of Thrones, and then he had a discussion with my mom. He was like, I think he'll really enjoy these books, and he seems to really enjoy reading. However,
your mom wasn't reading
adult content, and so she was like. She was like, "Hey, it's up to you. If you think he can handle it, go for it." And so I was able they signed off on that. But
see now,
there's a lot of jokes that we can drop right now.
So I know.
Your dad was like, "Hey, there's some incest literature here. I'd like you to read. Let me know what you think." Like that's.
But there's zombies, so
you got to be. But there are zombies.
But they are very clear throughout Game of Thrones that the incest is bad. Like they're very clear that it's like this is weird and awful, but like they really don't glamorize the incest sex scenes in the.
No. They glamorize the sex scene. But they accurately they explain how bad it is, right?
Yes.
But they do glamorize the scene itself.
They introduced that, and then like the parallel throughout the series is that the Lannisters are becoming what the Targaryens became.
Exactly.
And like they went insane because of all the inbreeding and stuff like that. And then the parallels are that now the Lannisters are the powerful ones, and they seem to be falling into those same pitfalls.
Filthy, blonde-haired, blue-eyed people, obviously.
Yeah. That being said, very excited about the prequel series. They got a really good cast going there.
Oh, they're doing a prequel series?
Yes, so it's the
you know how much it is?
Yeah, it's called. I believe they had like 4 different shows in development in the Game of Thrones world, and then I guess they were just deciding which one they liked best. So there was one that they were developing, which was the series with like a young Ned Stark and young Robert Baratheon, how they about their rebellion and how he became king. And then the one that they're coming out with first, I think they're still working on that one, but the one they're coming out with first is a prequel. It's called House of the Dragon, all about how the Targaryens took over Westeros with the dragons and stuff. So it's a much more compelling series. But they have really, really cool cast with like good fantasy actors. The guy that played the Doctor, in Doctor Who.
Narrow it down. There's a different.
I know. I was gonna say there's like 12 of those.
The younger one, the one that kind of looks like Benedict Cumberbatch.
Are you talking about Tennant?
David Tennant?
David
right?
Tennant?
I think that's
or
his,
Matthew.
I never watched Doctor Who. I'm a
There was
terrible.
David Tennant, and then there was the ugly guy who got a goofy face.
I think it's the goofy face guy.
Matt. He was in one of the new Terminators.
Yeah. Yes, I believe that's. Yeah, House of the Dragon cast.
We were talking about this at my workplace today about Game of Thrones. Like, if you went 5 years in the past from right now and told someone, hey, so everyone is going to hate Game of Thrones because it's going to suck, and they're like, what are you talking about? It's amazing.
Listen, I never even watched the last episode because I was like, this is getting fucked up. This is definitely getting fucked up. And they had just said, George Martin was like, yeah, the books are going to be different. And it's like, okay, then why am I watching this now?
I don't know. Yeah, well, that's what happens when you outrun your supply train, so to speak.
Well, yeah.
But he did sign off on the plot points. So he did sign off on
they paid him.
Yeah.
He's not stupid.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
My thing is this. It was the juiciest event like that. I'm not sure if you guys remember this. Did you ever watch the show Lost?
Yes. Fuck Lost so hard.
Now, well, this is the thing is people were like, oh, Lost is the best show ever.
Yeah.
And I didn't watch the first few episodes, but they're like, love it. And I'm like, every time I'm watching going, okay, they didn't really answer any of these questions, and they've added so much more. I'm like, this is just confusing. So I would pop in every so often, and when I heard about the end, I was like, sweet vindication, you bunch of fucking losers that wasted your time on this stupid goddamn show, because worst ending ever. And I'm like, this whole thing was a waste of time. Fuck you people.
Yeah.
It was almost like the whole show. So I watched Lost, like I binged it way after it ended. So I already knew all of the bad taste that left people's in their mouth and stuff like that. But I watched it with knowing that it would have a bad ending, right? Mm-hmm. And then I went through, but with the caveat that up until then, phenomenal show, great character development, all of that stuff, right? So I watched it and I completely agree. But the whole, like the way I understood it is that the whole show is just an allegory for what purgatory is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what, like, the island is purgatory, and that they actually died on the plane in the first episode, and then this is them just like they have each of the characters that are left alive have a lesson to learn, and as they learn that lesson, that's when they get killed off of the island, and then that's when, like, the final episode, they all meet back together on a plane again. And then I'm guessing that they get to live out their version of heaven, which is just regular life where you don't really have many issues.
It's just backwards.
Well, I mean, it could be like American Dad, where everyone has their own personal heavens. So you get like which, if you haven't seen this episode of American Dad, I highly recommend it. It's a Christmas special.
American Dad, but I've heard good things.
It's pretty good. Like it starts getting.
You're the bad guy, just to be clear, Nick. In that show, you're the bad guy. It's just.
Yeah.
It has American in the name.
Yeah, it's
I look
funny,
like
though.
all of America's enemies.
Nah, I mean the show, once they realized they could do whatever they wanted with Roger, the alien who just dresses as anything, that's when it was kind of off to the races, because then he just does whatever he wants. But in season 4, there's a Christmas special.
To have,
definitely.
Just as like a plot point, because it's like, I don't know what to do with this episode. I don't know. We have Roger.
Yeah.
He's like,
Roger takes up drinking. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a Christmas special where the rapture happens and the end times begin. So the kids, Stan and Francie's kid, get raptured at the beginning of the episode. and there's a scene where like an angel is escorting them to their personal heavens. And then they're like, wait, there are so many doors. How do you know this one's Steve's? And then the door opens, this woman comes out on a unicorn, like, adorned with jewels, and the unicorn shits cheeseburgers everywhere. And then the kid, the son picks it up, and he opens it, and he goes, pepper jack cheese. It's my heaven. And then walks in. Like, just...
So that's perfect.
Yeah.
It makes complete sense.
Yeah, and then the rest of the episode is just a post-apocalyptic story with Stan teaming up with Jesus to go rescue his wife.
Yeah,
that's fun.
It's awesome. But yeah, the thing with Lost is after the show ended, I learned just about J.J. Abrams' writing style, where he was like, it's more important to have... He called it the mystery box, where it's like it's more important for people to be asking questions than for them to get answers to those questions.
False.
Fuck you.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah. He's just like, I'm just gonna keep making shit up until I have to, like, look at everything that he's had to like put an ending to. It's failed completely. Lost.
Cloverfield.
The Star Wars sequels. It's all just stuff where he's like, fuck it. And just, I think we're starting to get like even more TV shows now where when they pitch it to the network, they go, here's the finish. It's over here. This is what we're aiming toward.
Yeah,
and I think
which is what I loved about The Good Place.
Yeah,
you guys watch The Good Place?
Yeah.
Oh, Good Place was fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic finish, like all the way through. Every single season was strong.
Mm-hmm.
I think if anyone was like a little bit weaker, maybe the second season, like in the middle, like that was where it kind of took a little dip. But that was more so if you look at the arc of the story, like that's the fun and games section.
Yeah.
And so like that's like that's where they got to like just play around with it. But there was some incredible acting in that show, like Darcy Carden, who played Janet.
Yeah.
Like she is that was a tour de force performance of her. And like, especially when you find out more about her just as an actress, that like she's been in the game for a minute and never got a shot. And then just, like in her mid to late 30s, she got like the role of a lifetime, and now she's finally getting the recognition. But like, man, if she's someone that like if she'd never popped, like what a loss that would have been. And just be able to see that type of skill set. Like she's got like almost like Jim Carrey level of like embodiment of full commitment and comedic role. Like especially when like that Janet episode where she's playing, the whole episode is just her basically.
Yeah. And
she plays all of the characters. That was really really crazy.
Yeah. It's always nice when you're watching something. And you realize, like, in all the roles that this actor has played, you're like, fuck, they're good at it.
Yeah.
You know? Like, for Jim Carrey especially, everyone's just like, oh, Ace Ventura and Dumb and Dumber. And then you watch things like The Truman Show, and you're like, motherfucker's...
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yeah, he's like, this motherfucker's got range!
Yeah. Yeah,
well, I find if they... Like, the problem with people like someone like Jim Carrey is, like, he had to become a real person, which happened much later in life. So he's funny and talented. So there's very specific movies like Ace Ventura, like, you know, Dumb and Dumber, where you're like, yeah, he's great because he's hilarious and he's very slapstick in his movements and his attitude, and he's, you know, got Play-Doh for a face, right? But once he became a real person, like, and then he started kind of figuring out, this is who I want to be. He was able to do so much more, but he's just a super talented person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And driven like hell. But
what, the thing where he wrote himself $1 million check or something?
Stuff like that. Yeah, like that's the problem is. I find that a lot of actors and actresses, like, they'll play a role and like, okay, you're really good at that, but then you'll never see them in anything else because they were good at that, but they're not actually good at pretending to be other people. They're just good at pretending to be themselves.
Yeah.
You know, it's weird.
Well, and I think there's a good, like, there's room for both, right? Like there's
sure.
Like, that's where you find like character actors that like, oh, they're always playing the same person, but in a bunch of different, like Eugene Levy, for example. Like he's always playing Eugene Levy.
Yeah.
Like in
But
every single role.
Eugene Levy is hilarious, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he's playing the exact same thing. He found his niche, and he plays that in every single movie,
Yeah.
and show, and it's incredible because he's not he's not usually not the delivery method for the joke, right?
Mhm.
He's the more so the voice of the audience, right?
Yeah.
But like same with like Dak Shepard, like he's a great actor when you find him in a good role, when he's playing what he can play.
Yeah.
Right, he's not Daniel Day-Lewis like putting on a different skin.
Yeah, or
right?
like
And there's
Jim
room for both,
Gaffigan
like-
is another one.
Yeah, he always
Yeah.
plays himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, when you mentioned Eugene Levy, all I could think of was
My
his
eyebrows?
facial expression. No. It
Yes.
wasn't that.
Yes.
Well, that too. But
Yeah.
I think there's nobody here that could come away unscathed from an eyebrow comment. Let's
Yeah.
be honest. That's.
Hey, I plucked
No,
mine
sorry.
yesterday. Okay. No.
Anyways, Eugene Levy, his facial expression when it's him and Jason Biggs sitting at the kitchen table with the pie in the middle, and he's just like, so. And you're like, dude, he plays that great.
I
right?
remember that exact line because it sticks in my memory. He's just like, so we'll just
And
tell her that we ate it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. But he did it such a great job. See,
Perfect line.
I really think it comes down to how much people want to see that character in their own lives. I don't think it's them seeing that's how I act. Like Samuel L. Jackson plays Samuel L. Jackson in every single movie, and he's awesome at it, and it's entertaining as all fucking hell.
But it's
But if
different
you see-
Samuel L. Jackson's, you know?
But it's not. Okay, so there's a movie, and I bring this up every once in a while. It's Samuel L. Jackson and Tommy Lee Jones in something about sunshine. It's a streetcar. It's them two. It's a play. But it's
Streetcar
them
Named
two-
Desire?
It's not. It's something else. It's I forget what it is. It's Sunshine Streetcar or something like that. But it's essentially them two in a kitchen because I think Samuel Jackson saved Tommy Lee Jones from walking in front of the streetcar or this subway or whatever.
Yeah.
And they proceed to have this discussion on whether that was the right thing to do or whether he should still kill himself and kind of thing. And there's never really like, and they go through this whole conversation and it's fantastic. But at the same time, you feel like it's Samuel Jackson, right? Like it still comes across. He doesn't speak as,
Is it the Sunset Limited?
that's the
Sunshine
one.
Limited, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Sunshine Limited, yeah.
So that's the thing is like, he doesn't speak as motherfuckerly as he
Right.
normally does,
Yeah.
but it's the same. It's like, yes, it is different Samuel Jacksons, but like different sides of the same Samuel Jackson. And he does it great because people want to see him, right? And that's why if you put make Jason Momoa bald and fat and see how much acting he gets. I don't think he's going to get any. Why? Because all he does is play Jason Momoa. And he's
Yeah.
big and gorgeous.
Yeah. And
Right?
gruff, and he's the strong, silent type, and stuff like that. The best explanation I heard, I can't remember which podcast or which actor, whatever, doesn't matter. But what they said was that they basically have like 3 dials inside of themselves, and then each role is just them saying, okay, where am I turning this? Like,
Yeah.
for ABC, A is at 80%, B is at 15, C is at 100. Right,
Yeah.
and then they just have those 3 dials, and then they oh, I remember who it was. It was Mark Maron. He was talking about it. He's like, I do me, and it's just how much of me I'm putting into this guy.
Yeah.
Which is that was a terrible
Well-
Maron. I got to work on that.
Do you see, what was it, Glow? Was the
Yes.
wrestler women?
Yeah.
Where he's like, you guys got any cocaine? They're like, no. Do you want to do some cocaine? And they're like, no, okie dokie. And you're like, yeah, I can see Mark Maron saying that.
Yeah.
That sounds like exactly like Mark Maron would say, right? So that's why it's like, I really, this is where I find it tricky with acting and everything, because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, acting's great. I'm like, no, it's horrible. That's it's the worst, because you're just pretending, right? That's what it is, and it's weird, but at the same time, some people are enjoyable to watch, right?
Yeah. I don't know. It's something I want to try more because I realize that like I do a lot of, I don't know if you guys do this, but I do a lot of straight acting in my everyday life. I love to do life bits with my friends. Yeah, 100%. Where I'll commit fully to something for a long time, and and then like I'll convince my friends that it's true, and just know like because I'll never wink, right? I'll never smile or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I'll let it go too long. So,
I thought you meant like
yeah.
I thought you meant like at work pretending to like acting like you're busy. You know that takes commitment.
That too.
Yeah.
But that's an easy solve. Clipboard works every time.
Yeah, clipboard or just the Costanza method. Look annoyed.
Yes.
Yeah.
That works all of the time.
Yeah.
Or what I like is the walk to nowhere.
Yeah.
So
where
when
you
you're
just
in the office,
do a round.
you wake up. You wake up. For what my investment level is in network, but where you get up and then but you forget something. So you'll get up and then you'll be like, and then you can do that for a while. You could get a few minutes out of oh man, I was gonna go do something. It'll come to me. And if you just really make a production of it, no one asks any questions.
Yeah, it especially works in something like an office that isn't just one room. You know, like I work in a doctor's office that's kind of like a horseshoe shape.
Yeah,
sort of. So like, as soon as you disappear around that corner,
are you closest to?
Which what?
Which waiting room are you closest to?
First
waiting room, the second waiting room, or the little waiting room?
Probably the little waiting room, because I'm in the clinical trials department, which is one, like, if the horseshoe is like an upside down U, it's in one of the corners.
Yeah.
So,
that means they don't have direct eye contact on you for a half horseshoe, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a lot of dilly-dallying you can do on your side before you disappear for an equal amount of time, and then come back. You can stretch that for quite some time.
Or even just go out into the hallway of the office, like where you come out of the elevator. You know, like
do you guys run into this issue where you're too efficient at work?
Yes. Oh my god. I've run out of stuff to do like 2.5 hours in, and then it's like Alexander wept when he saw the breadth of his territory, for there were no more lands to conquer. You're like,
I love that. I'm like, that is the most pompous way to say this job is beneath me. That's what it is. Okay? So listen, hey Nick, it's not that you're highly efficient. It's that you're working below your mental capacity.
Yes.
So what you have to do. So this is the thing. I worked for a bank for 15 years. Trust me on this. What you have to do is you have to start rejigging yourself, and you say, okay, well, this is what I want to get accomplished today. This is what I'm actually going to get accomplished today. This stuff I'm going to pretend that I just couldn't get to. And you start organizing things in a timely manner, and you start working out. See, the longer you work somewhere, the more deceit comes into play and how you articulate certain things. You can fall down a rabbit hole just in documentation, and people are like, wow, you're so committed. And you're like, I've wasted so much time this day on this bullshit thing. But you know what? Listen, my boss makes $1 and I make $0.10. That's why I poop on company time. It's the best thing.
When I was working in insurance, I would get like 45 minutes of shitting time in a day. Maybe 7 minutes of that was actively shitting.
Listen, working for an insurance company will back you up. Okay, there's a lot of guilt and evil that just absorbs into you there.
Well, even there, I was working in the actuarial department, so I have I don't know if I mentioned on here, but I have a math degree in actuarial and financial mathematics. I hate it.
Episode you have mentioned that you have that. That's very.
I hate it. But it's but because of that, like it was a lot of like Excel work, and I'm very good with Excel. And so like they would give me like a task, be like, this typically takes people like 3 hours, and I'd be like, all right, I figured out how to do it in 45 and set it up so that it'll take me 45 every subsequent time that I would have to do this. And I learned very quickly not to tell people that I could do these things.
Oh, of course.
So,
yeah. Then they give you more work.
They'd be like, this should take you about 3.5 hours or so, and then I would bring it back to them in 2 hours and 58 minutes. So I was always beat their projection, but
just by a little.
But just by a little. And then I told my buddy just got hired at a company where he's doing like quality assurance And so it's just defined processes, and you just have to make sure you can follow the process, and the process gives you the same outcome at the end every time.
Yeah.
Right.
And he was like they gave me something. It was supposed to take me all day. I finished it in 2 hours, and I was like, that's great. Just don't tell them that.
Yeah.
And my rule of thumb is never better than 80%. Whatever they give you, like
80? That's
you can
high.
only beat their tech. You can only beat it by 20%. That's the best. That's the most you can do over it. Because if you go 75% or lower, they start to expect more of you. So it's a very, very close line that you want to follow there. And with my new job, I hope no one I work with ever listens to this, but but I have a skill because I'm good at Excel. Like they'll give me like Excel projects and like data projects, which are so easy for me. And they're like when can I expect this back? I'm like, oh, I'll probably give it to you by end of day tomorrow. And I'll finish it in 7 minutes.
Yeah.
But then
just
they're
wait.
like, what did you do today? Why didn't you make as many calls? I'm like, I was helping out the other team, did something, it took some time, and then I'll
This is the thing is the older you get, you just realize that, oh wait, no, this is not worth, like, for myself, it's the bigger thing is it's not worth me ruining the rest of my day for this small port. Like I when in Old School when Will Ferrell goes on the debate and he just drinks the cup of whatever and he's like, I don't know what happened, I just blacked out. That should be work. That's how I'm like, no, I know how to do my job. I'll do my job. I'll do a great job. But this does not affect how my life exists,
Work to live, not live to work.
Yeah. Well, it's a question of it's effort versus reward, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you look around like the other people that you're working with and you're like, okay, and this is for most part when I look around, I'm like, I mean, I do this better a lot than most of the people around me, but do I want to? Because like we're all getting paid around the same, and like if I just have an output that's 6% higher than everyone else, then you put yourself in a good position for promotion, raises and stuff like that. But past that, if you're 10% better or 15% better, they just end up expecting more of you with no extra compensation. So it's just a question of like, which is interesting that like when I look at like my work ethic when it comes to work, and then my work ethic when it comes to like comedy and things I actually enjoy, like. I'll put in 8, 9, 10 hours a week with no outcome easily because it's just doesn't feel like work, right? Like the amount, Dino, me and you, the amount of time that we spent outside of bars and just like doing nothing, where we're just shooting the shit, but like it was the most joyous of nothing because we knew that there were 7 minutes of us bombing at the other end of it.
Yeah.
Listen, I was told this.
You're not alone.
Yeah. That's the world over. I was told this very early on in my career by someone who had a lot more experience and is still profitable to this day. What they told me was specifically where you want to be is top second quartile. The people in the top quartile of a business are always asked for more. You're number one, great. We want to be you to be number one by leaps and bounds. So do more, and just blows your ass. Whereas top second quartile means you're a solid contributor, but you're not top tier guy. But that keeps you safe and unbothered to just do your shit. Every once in a while, you pop in something a little extra, but because bottom first quartile, they will harass the shit out of you until you're top first quartile. Whereas top second quartile, they would just leave you alone.
What do you mean by quartile? What does that mean?
Okay, so in other words, essentially of the performing people, you're going to have the bottom 25%, the bottom 50%,
picture a bell curve,
which is first and second, or the fourth and third, right?
Yeah.
So you want to be in the top half of people, but the bottom half of the top half.
Yeah.
Right?
So like a C minus.
No,
C+?
I would say a B minus.
B minus.
Yeah, B around
minus,
there.
C plus.
If you're looking at like a bell curve like this, like you want to be on the down slope toward the positive end.
Yeah.
So like if it goes like this,
you want to be on the if it goes up and down, you're going to be on just before that second curve out.
Yeah,
that's
where it starts to even out. You want to be right there. It like to make it easier and not mathematical. If you have 10 people, you want to be fourth to sixth. That's where you want to be, right in
and
around.
better fourth than sixth, because sixth
Gets
something
laid off.
Sixth, something bad can happen that's out of your control and will drop you to eighth.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas if you're fourth, you have a little wiggle room for, like I was a financial planner, right? So if someone dies, that money might be leaving the bank. I'm accountable for that, right? So if I'm number 4, right, I'm just outside of top quartile. Something happens, I have a lot of wiggle room before I hit below 50%, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the key.
So that movie, I Am Number 4, that's just about like skirting through your job correctly. I Am Number.
I don't even know that movie.
I think it was a movie about like.
No, isn't that about superhero stupid shit? Hold
on. Where it's like they're these aliens or something, and like they all have a number to them, and they're being hunted, and number 4 is the survivor or something. I don't know. I've never seen the movie. I was just
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
just
in general, like.
Old.
Which is interesting. Like these are the little nuggets that no one really tells you until you're a few years into your career, or you discover it on your own.
Yeah.
Right. Because up until that point, everyone's always like, you got to be at the top. You got to be the best. You got to operate at the top of your capacity and things like that. And I thought that was true. And then I got into like my first internship, and then I was like I was killing it, doing really well. And
for free.
What I got the what you were talking about, Dino, where like I was at the top, so they just started piling more. And I was in a company which was like a consultancy, so there's a bunch of consultants and then associates and then interns, right? And then the associates could dump work on the interns to whichever intern they wanted. And because I was good and efficient, like people just started coming to me, and I was fine with that because it was hourly and I got paid overtime.
Yeah.
And so I would hit overtime every single week, like, and then after like 6 weeks, my like intern manager came to me and was like, so you got to start spreading the work around to other people. You're hitting.
See, that's the other problem.
You're consistently hitting 55 hours a week.
Yeah.
And the other guys are barely having enough work to fill their day.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you want? Like, people come to me and I'm the intern. You told me to say yes.
Yeah.
And then and like I thought that's what I was supposed to do, and then they start to take it away. But I was able to make a lot of money in those 6 weeks.
In that type of situation, then they should start, number 1, they shouldn't come to the intern who's doing all the work and say, hey, you need to spread it around. No. You have to go talk to the associates who are handing them work and say, hey, fuckers, stop it. You know?
Well, but the issue is the associates never know what the other associates are giving to the interns. So like they were like on you. It's like, hey, after a certain point, you need to start saying no to stuff. And and that was which was a fine ask, but
or like at my job. So after the pandemic started, we went from having like a time clock to an app on your phone. And
fuck that.
No, it's been amazing.
Better?
So is it geofenced?
It's what's it called? Paycom is what it's called.
No, like does it say where you are when you clock in?
So it does, but you can turn it off, and nobody's said anything yet. So everybody has turned off their location, except when they have to go somewhere, and then you get paid for the mileage. Then you just turn it on for that, and then turn it off when you get back.
Cool.
Yeah. So. Like every once in a while they'll send I
love when things slip through the cracks in bureaucracy.
Well, every once in a while they'll send an email being like, please remember to turn on your location in Paycom, and everyone's like, okay, sure.
That's when everyone all of a sudden turns into a boomer. Then you're like, where do I do that?
Yeah, how do I do that? Are you sure?
Well, not even that. You just ignore the email. There's no like.
Is it a company phone or your personal phone that it's on?
My personal phone.
So if it's on your personal phone, you know what the best thing is? If they're like, hey, your location is on, you're like, yeah, I had it on, but my data started going crazy. I'm pretty sure, like, unless you guys are going to start paying for it, and they're like, okay, you know what, that's fine. Don't worry about
it. But that's never happened.
Or there's an even easier one.
You lie about that.
Are you that scared because you could be like, well, I've read this article about all of the data that they can just steal from you if you just leave their location services on.
Yeah.
So I started with the new Apple update. You can start blocking apps from like just pulling data, and I think this Paycom one is one of those. And I mean, if it's a huge deal, I'm happy to turn it on. But I just don't really want to put my data on there. If you want that to happen, like if you guys get us like company devices, that'd be fine. That would be fine. But like I have a lot of personal data on my phone, and I'm just not comfortable with putting that at risk.
Like,
I remember in the States, they could be like, "Fuck your time and fuck your personal stuff," right?
Yeah, they've never pressed me on that though, so it's never had to come up yet. But
wow,
I'll use the opportunity to like shave little bits of overtime, because then it'll add up to an extra hour or something.
Yeah.
Where I'll get in at my day is 7:30 to 4. I'll get in at like 7:24, 7:22, or get in. And and then eventually it adds up to an hour. And again, they send out like a vaguely non-committal email. Please make sure you clock out on time. No one does. Or like if my boss leaves, I will literally put my feet up and pretend I've left for the day while clocked in. There was a time where I like forgot to clock out and then just clocked out a half hour later.
Ooh. Okay, so you know what? Realistically, number one, the idea that you need to clock in per se is ridiculous, right? Like in this day and age. But on top of that you log in on your phone. You're like, I'm here doing work.
Yeah.
Like this is the thing is, I have a serious problem with the idea that if you don't clock in, how do we know you're working? Because my work
gets done. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like, there's that fine line where it's like, listen, you can't govern. Like, I remember when there was like, you go to the bathroom a lot.
Yeah.
Like, are we going to talk about medical issues? I'd love to do that and watch everyone at the table just suddenly their sphincter just tightens right up.
Yeah.
Because that's a lawsuit waiting to happen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is, you don't know that kind of stuff where people will just managers. The best I've been seeing lately is people saying, "Hey, we're a little busy. Can you come in?" And be like, "No, it's my day off."
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, but we'd really appreciate it." That's nice.
Yeah.
Good luck. And you're like, yeah, you know what? That's exactly what you should be doing.
Yeah,
right?
I saw like a text chain where it was a manager being like, "We're understaffed today," and then the guy goes,
That's too bad.
That certainly sounds like a pickle," and he's like, and he goes, "Yeah, we need someone else to come in today. I hope you find someone," and then just like that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like, I just realized as you guys were talking that like so much of the way that management structures are set up in most companies rides on people having a semblance of shame.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
So much of it is shame based.
But the manager having no shame in trying to shame you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? That's
but
the
like,
real
and so many people go along with it because they're like in exactly that scenario. We need someone. We're understaffed. I mean, I don't want to be the one to let the team down. Like, I don't want to be that. Like, but like once you, there's a wonderful point that you get to it with every single job that you have, where you completely in your soul check out.
Yeah.
Like where, and then it's just like, I'm gonna do the letter of the law, and that's it.
Yeah.
And because like when you first join an organization, even if you don't like really want the job or you don't care about the product, like you join optimistically that you're like, I'm gonna have a good time here. This is gonna be fun. I'm gonna put some effort in. It'd be nice if we all contributed to the company goals. Like I'm that type of person where like if I buy into the goal, like I'm gonna work hard, right?
Yeah.
But the second that I start to realize where like my effort is not being valued and if I have a good idea, they're not listening to it, they're listening to some other bullshit, then it's like, so we're not working off a logic or rationale. This is just because someone has a title. So then it's just like, okay, so my title says this, so I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
and then you just completely check it. And it's a wonderful freeing.
When is that for you guys? Like when
it completely depends on the company and the organization. What I think is it's dependent on the length of a project cycle in that company, whatever that is. Generally, it's probably a quarter, maybe a couple quarters. I think probably 6 months is generally where you start to find it, because the first 3 to 4 months you're training, you're getting integrated, and then after those next couple months you start to see the holes. You start to see the holes because you understand what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Until you understand what's going on, it takes a little bit. I don't know. What do you guys think? What's been your experience?
Honestly, like I worked for the same bank for 15 years. I got a 15-year watch in my bedroom, right? Like, but in all honesty, like, as soon as I got a hang of the job, which could be anywhere from 1 month to 6 months, that's when that was like even past the peak. It's like, because I had to master it, then realize I had mastered it, and then it was all downhill from there.
Yeah.
You know, because now it's weird, you know what? And for myself, and this is going to come across as pompous, but it was like, oh, now that I've mastered it, this job is beneath me. You know what I mean? Like, it was a weird. I have that problem where I'm like, no. If I'm not exceeding, it's because this isn't the right thing for me. You know,
we've talked about this before, Dino, that we have the similar, I guess, personality or thing like that, where like once you know it, once you're good at it, like you stop.
Why am I doing this? I'm already good at it.
Interest in continuing it. Yeah, and that's why, like, I think the conversation we had that led into this is like, that's why I love stand up. It was the first thing where it's like, there is no I've mastered it. There's no like, because as soon as you get good at something, then it's the next thing. Like, because like at first it's like, oh, the first line is just get comfortable on stage. That's the first thing. Like, no matter how it's going, even if your joke's not going well, get comfortable. And then after that, it's like, now we need to stop relying on set lists all the time. And then it's like, now we need to stop, you know, whatever it is.
But you're always vulnerable to eating shit, right? Like, so I stopped using a set list, and suddenly I forgot a bit, you know, and I got screwed again. So it's like, so then you have to, so the way I remembered things wasn't good enough. So now I got to figure out a new way, like, because it's all a process on a grand scale, right? And you're always liable to eat shit. Like, you get the wrong gig with the wrong audience, or something shitty happens during the day. Something happens. Maybe you're too drunk or too high, something. And you go up on stage and you eat dick after dick after dick after dick, and you're going, damn, you know? And that can be no reflection on you whatsoever, but it just happens, right? So it's definitely a big difference, right?
I have to say, out of all the bombs I've seen, Dino, yours is probably one of my favorites, because the audience wouldn't know this, but the way Dino speaks on stage is completely different from how he normally speaks.
Yes.
Like, it could not be more different. And whereas, like, me, when I get on stage, it's what you're hearing right now, just dialed up like 5 more levels. Like, it's a lot more, like, just a lot more energy and performative.
Same.
But Dino is so deadpan and slow that when he's bombing, the level of silence in the room is so it's an indescribable silence, because he's just like, and then all you hear is his breathing into the mic.
Yeah. And that's on purpose. Like, it's like it's.
Oh my god!
And I'll just pretend I'm out of breath, and I'll just look at people and be like, "Oh, you're all fucking assholes," and they just start laughing, and I'm like, "All right, whatever." I don't.
It's
Hardwood
like the
Blues. One time at Hardwood Blues, there was like 8 people or something in the room, and he went up, and there was a football game on that was muted, and he went up and just performed to sides of people's heads for like 10 minutes.
That's the worst. Oh, yeah. When there's something else going on in the room, you're like, fuck, I'm not going to be able to...
And they muted... The football game was going. Yeah. And then they muted it for us to do stand-up. So we were behind the 8 ball, to say the least.
Yeah.
It was... That's the thing is... And just to clear up my reputation here, there's... Like, I am known to, like, go into a bar where everyone's there to drink and be able to command their attention. But that night, what was it? Was it the Raptors, or was it football? What were we watching?
It was football. Because it was like
Sunday night.
And to say, and just for context here, in Canada, football isn't a big thing.
No, it's not.
So the fact that these people were really into the football game was inexplicable. Like
they had money. They had money on that game, and I tried so much different stuff that night. Like I started talking faster, and it was horrible. I remember that night, it fucking sucked.
And I went after you, and I figured out there is a cheat code to those rooms and those types of people. It's like, just do your dirtiest material, and they'll listen.
Yeah.
Like, as long as you're talking about tits and ass and fucking, like, no matter how engaged they are in the game, they'll be like, this guy's talking about pussy?
And that's the thing is, I don't have much material like that, so it's like, fuck.
Yeah. Or just get, like, like, even it doesn't even have to be necessarily tits and ass. It could just be, like, something crazy, or, like, the opening line is so weird that they're like, what? Like, your therapist died? What do you mean? What do you mean you found your therapist dead? Explain. Like,
exactly. That's exactly the same.
Is that your favorite bait and switch bits? Where, like, I always love, like, when you see a comedian have the bit where it's like, it's just ridiculous premise, justify. Like, the more ridiculous the premise, like, and impossible to justify it is, like, the more I enjoy it.
I don't know if it's a bait and switch, because it's...
that's probably not the right word for it, but
it's more of a, like, ridiculous scenario being like, how the hell is he going to explain that?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, or like, there's like an early Patton Oswalt bit where he's like, I watched a man shave his balls. Let me back up, and then he, like, explains the whole thing.
I love those ones. They're so difficult to do because you can't just put the statement and then explain it.
Yeah.
Your explanation has to be equally as compelling as the initial ridiculous statement. And
at regular intervals, like
at regular intervals.
Yeah.
And so it's really difficult to do. And the funny thing is, like, I think it's really, really difficult to come up with those ones. The only way you really walk into them is when, for example, I watched a man shave his ball. It's like, that probably came out of a true story, right?
Yeah.
Because
at least elements
of it. The truth is always more ridiculous than fiction, right?
Yeah.
Like, Dino, you were there when I did that threesome joke for the first time.
Oh,
like that one's like, I could not have written that if you gave me 100 years. Like, I could not write the sequences of events that take place in that story. One day it'll come out. You'll be able to.
If you put a bunch of monkeys in a room with a typewriter, eventually they will write a bit about a threesome.
Yes. But
Rule
not
34,
that
right?
specific one.
No, Rule 34 is if it exists, there's porn of it.
Yes.
Yeah. Generations.
I'm not familiar with Rule 34, so we found something outside.
That's the rule.
Yeah. If it exists, there's porn depicting it.
Yeah.
My favorite technological rule or truism is that every single technological innovation has been pioneered by porn.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The internet exists in its current form because of porn.
Yeah.
Streaming video exists now because of porn.
VHS existed because of porn.
Virtual reality, porn.
Blu-ray.
Blu-ray
God bless porn, everybody.
The automobile porn.
Might have been the dark horse there, though.
Oh, yeah, because it was HD, it was porn.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Let's see, the light bulb, porn. So you can see
Thomas
the porn
Edison,
better.
he just needed to see those tits at night.
No, he woke up too many times going, who the hell are you?
Yeah.
And that's what happens.
I find it ironic that, like, Thomas Edison was, like, revered for a long time, but he was kind of an asshole who, like, smeared other people and bought their ideas and pretended he invented them. And then there's Elon Musk, who, like, has a company named Tesla, one of the people screwed over by Thomas Edison.
Mm-hmm.
And he's basically Thomas Edison of the 21st century. Fuck you, Elon Musk. What?
Have you ever read about Alexander Graham Bell and there's another guy who had invented the telephone first and just disappeared on the way to the patent office or something? It's a messed up story.
No, I haven't read about Alexander Graham Bell. I'm just fine.
punch you in your giant head, bastard. Like,
All right, y'all, calm down.
come and get me. You got to use your passport. That'll give me time to escape.
yeah, but unlike you guys, we all have passports, okay?
Touche.
If someone Canadian doesn't have a passport, you're like, what are you, poor? What's wrong with you? Like, it's not...
I gotta get one.
I met a girl who was like, I've never had a passport or been on a plane. I was like, I don't want to know you.
Like, okay, passport I can maybe understand if you're from the U.S. Been on a plane?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. In Canada, you can't go really anywhere unless you get on a plane or you get in a car with a passport. Like, there's not much to do. So there, like, when you run into people who are like, "Oh, I've never really left the GTA," it's like you either come from a really broken family, or you don't have any sort of goal setting ability to actually get yourself to that point. Like, you know, because like there's a few barriers, but like if you're into your mid-20s and you don't have a passport, you've never been on a plane, like, you've made some weird decisions. Like you prioritized other things, and like it's not really the type of person I want. Like, there's a huge overlap with the type of people that have never been on planes or don't have a passport, and the people that put like hundreds of thousands of dollars into their car.
Yeah.
And their car is like a Presidia. Okay.
Yeah,
like
or it's a Subaru that's like really low to the ground with a spoiler and a hood scoop, even though it doesn't need a hood scoop. Like that type of thing. Like, I feel like there's a huge overlap between those two people.
And then you're like, dude, you know that they market like to lesbians exclusively, right?
Yeah. Well, the SUVs. I feel like the SUVs are solely a lesbian vehicle, but the
no. Like Subaru Subaru as a company, like, its niche is marketing to lesbians. I swear to God.
Joey Diaz.
I guess so.
Oh, he just has a huge thing where he's like, if you're living anywhere with snow, you got to get yourself a Subaru. Those things never stop.
Yeah.
So, Nick Fernandez, not good at imitating voices, period.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we learned today.
I need to hear it, and Joey Diaz is a very difficult one.
Which is funny.
No, it's not, you cocksuckers.
Yeah,
okay?
well, you see, I don't know if I could do it without cocksucker. Like, I know I can do it with cocksucker.
This is Joe Rogan. Listen, Joe Rogan, okay? Just calm down, okay? I'm going to tell you a story. This is the Bronx. It's 1974, and I done a lot of cocaine. Okay? It's very simple, okay? Tremendous amount of cocaine.
Well, like, sometimes you need to kind of ramp up. Like, in order to do the Irish accent, I got to start with an O. Like, oh, what are you doing, lad? I can't just go into the accent outright, because then it goes in and out. You need
I'm going to give you guys a tip that you'll never be able to use.
What?
So for the Indian accent, all you have to say is hotel, motel.
Hotel,
and
motel.
And you got it.
Well, let's just make sure. Yeah.
Right.
I grew up in Brampton. So Brampton is a suburb of Toronto, Atlas.
Yeah.
That is essentially now all Indian people.
Okay.
Like,
exclusively.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's where I grew up.
Rambe. I'm not joking.
It's
called...
yeah. And so there's a
Hotel,
lot
motel. Like that?
Well, no, you have to sing it. So it's hotel,
motel.
And then once you have that, because you need to hit the T very like a D.
Yeah.
And all of your O's and A's need to be elongated, right? So
hotel, motel.
Yeah. Hello, sir. How are you?
Yeah.
Like, and then once you have those two, you can. That's my touchstone for that one. Gets me into it.
That's always good.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Which I can do fine because I'm not.
If anyone questions whether you're racist or not, use this trick and they'll know.
I did a show where I went on stage, and it was like a 10-minute set. I did the first 4 minutes in an Indian accent, and completely locked in, and then with no and never talking about it, between minutes 4 and 5, I just transitioned into my regular accent, and seeing it took people about 90 seconds to figure out what happened, and then everyone's just very confused about what's happening. They're looking at each other. They're like, were we off when we first heard him on stage? Mm-hmm. And then afterwards, someone one of the audience members came up to me and was like, that was really offensive. Like, and I was like, well, let me show you my birth certificate. Different type of birther movement, but yeah, I love it when and it's always like, it's not it's a stereotype, but it's true. It's always like a younger white woman that comes up to you, that where like, you know, between the ages of 20 and 35, they always come up to you and they're like, they have an opinion about what you said.
Can I talk to you for a second? And you're like, oh, this is gonna be
that
cool.
one. That kind of elementary school teacher energy. Yeah.
And it's always,
Can I borrow you for a second? I just want to talk. And you're like, nope, I don't.
just
See you later.
a little thing. I really enjoyed your setup there, but I just feel like you shouldn't be speaking for another group. Like I don't. It just it feels a little appropriational, a little like it. I feel like if someone like it was Indian was here, they would have really not enjoyed it.
Excuse me, where are you from? Brentwood? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what you should do is when she starts talking to you that, be like, did you believe that accent? It was good, yeah, okay, and just really talk with her.
People always talk about like how like white guys can't do accents and stuff, but like speaking of someone who's like Indian, like never bothers me when white guys do accents on stage, like at all. The only time it bothers me is when like the punchline is the accent, like where there's no thought, there's no funny turn of phrase, there's no second layer, where it's just like you're gonna laugh because I'm going like that is just, it's lazy, it's dumb. And then when comedians do it and then the audience laugh, I immediately hate that audience and I get on stage with a rage for them.
Yeah. I was at a show last week and there was a woman who went on two before me that I didn't see her set because I was in the bathroom, but apparently she did this horrible, like, just tasteless bit about, like, Harvey Weinstein wasn't so bad. I would have fucked him if it got me acting gig. And, like,
it's just stupid to say, though. Yeah,
especially because we're in LA. Like, some of the people in the audience could have been one of his victims, you know?
His actual hunting ground. Like, that's,
Yeah.
And so,
also, like, the tastelessness of it apart, like, the bit's already been done.
Yeah.
To death.
Yeah.
Literally.
Like, Joe
before
Rogan
he was accused.
had a whole one about it, which was of what the Weinstein bits I've heard, like, probably one of the best angles, because he was just like, he made it like, what if I had a son?
Yeah.
Which is which is the better turn on it. But like, where it's like, I would have fucked them as a, just like, you just look a little bit more broken. Like it just makes you feel bad for the person saying it.
It's been a thing since like those bits have been a thing since like, I think it was Courtney Love, where they're like, do you have any advice for the little girls out there? And she's like, don't get into a limo with Harvey Weinstein. Like, just even back then, you're like, so yeah. So she does that bit. It brings down the energy of the room. You know, the person who like scorch earths the energy, where they're like, all right, everybody's going after me. You're fucked. So the person after her, who was one before me, went. He did like meh. Like he would have done a lot better. If not for the fact that everybody hates like all the comics now. And then I went up there and did like medium to medium plus. It wasn't great.
You got some laughs, but no big pops.
Yeah, and on like stuff I know works too. So I'm like,
tried and true stuff.
Well, because the problem was I didn't see it happen. So when afterward I'm like, what happened? And they're like, oh, it turns out that this woman just completely ruined it for everyone. And she was the boomers of the comedians.
That's when every comedian reaches into their back pocket for their rainbow suspenders. They're like, all right, we're going down. Let's go do it properly.
I'm taking a dive.
Yeah. I'm working on my C stuff. Let's do this.
Let's see how he does up there without all the assistants.
It was that's a fun milestone to hit, though, when the first time you do a show and it goes poorly and you know it's not your fault. Like where you go up and you're like, this material all works, I performed well, and you listen back to it and you're like, I'm not bombing, like I'm not performing bombing, like it's just like in the room it's just not hitting. And then like, but it takes a lot of like it's a really nice place to hit, because it's where I know how to do this, and it's not my fault.
Yeah.
which was a really, really fun spot to hit.
Son, look at me. It's not your fault.
Yeah.
It's not your fault,
Yeah.
son. Yeah.
It's not your fault.
Yeah.
It's not your fault.
Anyways.
Fuck off.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Bunch of jackasses.
Watched it like 3 weeks ago.
We should probably wrap up the episode on the terrible Goodwill Hunting episodes.
There you go.
But yeah, thanks for listening. Review us on your podcast apps and tell a friend about the show or something. We got a name now. It's Generation Dan, but we're not Dan.
Yeah.
We're the letters that make
Dan.
up Dan. Where can they find us on the internet?
You can find me on Instagram at Nick Fernandez Comedy. That's basically it for me.
That's it.
You want me to go or you want to go?
Let's just go youngest to oldest.
How about
yeah?
we just end on that awkward dead silence? Can we just end on that? Just
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
that
Just
trail
that's
off?
it. And music.
Perfect.
Nah.
Exactly it. So I'm Dino the Genetic Marvel, you fucking assholes, and you can find me everywhere you get social media stuff, all over the interwebs. Just type in Dino the Genetic Marvel. It's me. There's no other one. Just one. It's me. All right. There you go.
And then you can find me at Atlas Novak, Twitter, Instagram, or find my other show at Nexus at Night in the same places. And thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
You have a